Hello and welcome. Let's talk for a moment about the years after 70. This isn't just about adding more years to your life. But here's a startling fact that we need to face head-on together. According to the American Heart Association, for folks between the ages of 60 and 79, the prevalence of cardiovascular disease is over 75%. And for those over 80, it climbs to nearly 90%. Now, I don't share that number to scare you. I share it to empower you, because what your doctor might not have the time to break down in a 15-minute appointment is just how much power you have over that number. A lot of that power is sitting right there in your kitchen pantry and your refrigerator. This is the insider secret that often gets lost in the shuffle. Your daily food choices are one of the most powerful tools you have. And if you've ever thought to yourself, well, a little ache here, a little high blood pressure there, that's just part of getting older, I'm here today to respectfully challenge that idea. In the next 25 minutes, we are going on a journey together. We're going to uncover the top 10 foods that can silently sabotage your heart health, and more importantly, we'll give you a powerful and practical toolkit to build a stronger, more resilient heart, starting today. The problem many of us face is that the biggest risks to our heart health aren't always obvious. They're hidden in foods we eat every single day, foods that are often marketed to us as convenient or sometimes even as healthy. Our ambitious goal today is to turn on the lights in the grocery aisle. We're going to become food detectives, and by the end of this video, my hope is that you'll have the confidence to navigate the supermarket like a seasoned pro, fully in control of your health. Now, the information we're sharing today isn't just my opinion. We're drawing directly from the latest research and guidelines from the most trusted names in American health. Institutions like the American Heart Association, the National Institute on Aging, and the Mayo Clinic. We've done the homework so you can focus on the action. To make this simple and clear, we're going to count down the top 10 culprits, starting with number 10 and working our way down to the number 1 food to be most mindful of. For each one, we'll talk about why it's a concern in plain, simple English. I'll share a quick story to help the idea stick, and then we'll cover the most important part, the simple, positive change you can make instead. And you'll definitely want to stick around for our top 3. Number 2, in particular, is something many of us were told for decades was the healthy choice. The science has changed dramatically, and it's absolutely critical to know why. So grab a cup of tea or a glass of water, get comfortable, and let's begin our countdown. All right, let's kick off our countdown with number 10, the trap of convenience. Specifically, most canned soups and pre-packaged frozen dinners. The primary villain here is sodium. To keep these foods preserved and give them a long shelf life, manufacturers pack them with salt. When you consume all that excess sodium, your body holds on to water to try and dilute it. This directly increases the total volume of blood flowing through your blood vessels. Now, think of your arteries like a garden hose. When you put too much water through it, the pressure builds up. That's exactly what happens in your body. That extra pressure is what we call high blood pressure or hypertension, and it forces your heart to work much harder day in and day out, which can damage your arteries over time. A single serving of a popular canned chicken noodle soup can easily contain over 800 milligrams of sodium, which is more than half of the 1,500 milligrams daily limit recommended by the American Heart Association for many adults, especially those with high blood pressure. I think of my neighbor Arthur. After his wife passed away, cooking for one felt like a monumental chore. Frozen dinners became his go-to solution. They were easy, perfectly portioned, and there was no fuss. and no cleanup. He was getting frustrated because his blood pressure kept creeping up at his doctor's visits, even though he was careful to never add salt from the shaker at the table. He didn't realize that all the salt he needed to worry about was already baked in to those convenient meals he was relying on. It's a common story for many who live alone or have trouble cooking. So your action step here is to become a label detective. The next time you're in the soup or freezer aisle, make it a habit to turn the package over. Look for phrases like low sodium, reduced sodium, or no salt added. As a rule of thumb, try to aim for products with under 500 milligrams of sodium per serving. An even better option is to explore the world of low-sodium broths. You can buy a carton, add some frozen vegetables, and maybe some leftover chicken, and you've made a quick, heart-healthy soup in minutes. There are also meal delivery services like Mom's Meals that offer entire menus specifically designed to be low in sodium for seniors. Now, it's important to mention, if you are already taking medication for high blood pressure, or if you're noticing new symptoms like swelling in your feet and ankles, it is absolutely crucial to discuss your sodium intake with your doctor. They can give you a personalized daily target that's right for your specific health needs. So we've seen how salt can hide in our prepared meals, but it's also a primary ingredient in another common food group that many of us enjoy in sandwiches and on snack platters. That brings us directly to culprit number 9. Coming in at number 9 are processed meats. This is a big category that includes things like deli ham and turkey, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, and salami. These foods deliver a 1-2 punch to your heart's health. First, just like our last culprit, they are loaded with sodium, which is used to cure and preserve them. But they also introduce another problem. They are often high in saturated fat. Saturated fat can raise your levels of LDL cholesterol, which you've probably heard called the bad cholesterol. High LDL cholesterol is a major contributor to the buildup of sticky plaque inside your arteries, a condition known as atherosclerosis. Think of it like rust building up inside a pipe, making the opening narrower and narrower. This is a primary cause of heart attacks. On top of that, the chemical preservatives used in these meats, like nitrates, can cause inflammation and make your arteries stiffer over time. The evidence on this is quite strong. A large-scale study out of Oxford University confirmed that each 50-gram daily serving of processed meat, that's just 2 thin slices of deli ham or a single sausage link, increased the risk of coronary heart disease by a significant 18%. My Uncle Frank loved his morning routine, 2 strips of bacon with his eggs every single day. He'd always say, "It's my protein for the morning," and he wasn't wrong. But when his doctor flagged his rising cholesterol numbers, he was genuinely shocked. He was a smart guy, but he just didn't consider that the way the bacon was cured, salted, and preserved made it fundamentally different from a simple, unprocessed piece of chicken. He didn't realize that the processing itself was what was contributing to the problem. Your action step here is to rethink your go-to protein sources, especially for sandwiches and breakfasts. Instead of buying processed deli meat, try using leftover roasted chicken or turkey that you've cooked at home. Just slice it thin and you have a perfect sandwich filler. Canned tuna or salmon are also fantastic, heart-healthy alternatives. Just be sure to look for varieties packed in water, and if you can find them, the low-sodium versions are best. For a wonderful plant-based option, you can't beat hummus or a simple mashed chickpea salad. When you're shopping for meat, the American Heart Association's advice is simple and clear. Choose lean, unprocessed cuts of meat and poultry. And of course, if you have a personal or a strong family history of high cholesterol or heart disease, minimizing or even eliminating processed meats from your diet is one of the most powerful and impactful changes you can make. This is a great topic to discuss with your healthcare provider. Now we've talked about salty foods, but what about the sweet ones? The next culprit is a major source of what we call empty calories and a huge driver of heart-damaging inflammation. Let's move on to number 8. At number 8, we have what might be the single biggest source of added sugar in the American diet: sugary drinks. And please hear me on this. This is not just about soda. This category also includes most sweet teas, fruit punch, and fruit-flavored drinks, sports and energy drinks, and many of those fancy sweetened coffee beverages. When you drink your sugar, it hits your bloodstream like a tidal wave. It's absorbed incredibly fast. This rapid sugar spike sends a panic signal to your liver, which goes into overdrive to process it all. The liver's response is to convert that excess sugar into a type of fat called triglycerides. High triglycerides are a major, well-established risk factor for heart disease. These drinks also fuel chronic inflammation throughout your body and can lead to insulin resistance. To make matters worse, they've been shown to lower your levels of HDL, the good cholesterol that acts like a cleanup crew for your arteries. A study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that drinking just one 12-ounce sugary beverage a day was associated with significantly higher triglycerides and lower good cholesterol. It's a direct, multi-pronged assault on your heart's health. I remember a woman in a health workshop I attended. Her name was Brenda, and she was so proud that she had given up her daily soda habit. But she had replaced it with 2 or 3 large glasses of sweet tea every day, thinking it was a much healthier choice. She didn't realize that from her body's perspective, the massive load of liquid sugar was having a very similar and very damaging effect on her triglycerides and her overall heart health. Your action step is to consciously replace these sugary drinks with healthier alternatives. Water, of course, is always the #1 choice. If you find plain water boring, try infusing it with flavor by adding slices of lemon, cucumber, or a handful of fresh berries. Unsweetened iced tea and sparkling water are also excellent options that give you flavor and fizz without the sugar. If you really need a little sweetness, try diluting a small amount of 100% fruit juice with plain water or sparkling water. Now, this is a big one. If you've been diagnosed with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or if your doctor has told you that you have high triglycerides, eliminating sugary drinks is non-negotiable. This is a critical conversation to have with your doctor or a registered dietitian to get your numbers back under control. Drinking our sugar is a huge problem, but what about eating it first thing in the morning? That leads us directly to our next culprit, which hides in plain sight on the breakfast aisle. Let's talk about number 7. At number 7, we're tackling what I call the healthy breakfast trap. This includes most commercial breakfast cereals, even the ones marketed to adults with words like bran and fiber. And it also includes most flavored yogurts. These foods are often wolves in sheep's clothing. The front of the box might shout about being whole grain or low fat, but if you take a moment to read the nutrition facts label on the side, you'll find they are often packed with hidden added sugars. A single serving of a popular healthy honey nut type of cereal can have 10 to 14 grams of sugar. That's almost 3 teaspoons before you've even really started your day. Just like the sugary drinks we just discussed, this morning sugar rush spikes your blood sugar and insulin levels, which over time contributes to chronic inflammation and weight gain, both of which are major risk factors for heart disease. Flavored yogurts are another major offender. That fruit on the bottom is often more of a sugary, cornstarch-thickened jam than it is actual fruit. My friend's mother, Eleanor, was so meticulous about her health. She chose what she thought was a heart-healthy bran flake cereal every single morning and had a fruit-flavored yogurt for her afternoon snack. When her routine blood work came back and her doctor expressed concern about her rising blood sugar levels, she was completely baffled. It was only when her daughter sat down with her and showed her how to read the added sugars line on the nutrition labels that she realized her so-called healthy routine was starting her day with almost as much sugar as a frosted donut. So your action step here is twofold. First, when it comes to breakfast cereals, become a label hawk. Look for options with less than 6 grams of sugar and at least 5 grams of fiber per serving. Excellent, widely available choices include plain shredded wheat, original Cheerios, or old-fashioned rolled oats. Second, for yogurt, make the switch to plain, unsweetened Greek or regular yogurt. Then, you can add your own fresh or frozen fruit, like berries or a sliced peach. You get all the flavor, the beneficial fiber, and the nutrients from the real fruit, without the mountain of added sugar. If you are monitoring your blood sugar for any reason, paying close attention to that added sugars line on nutrition labels is absolutely key. If you're struggling to keep your A1C number in a healthy range, reviewing these hidden sugar sources with your healthcare provider or a registered dietitian is a very, very smart move. The problem with many of these sugary cereals isn't just the sugar, it's also what they're made from. And that brings us right to our next point, which is all about the fundamental building blocks of so many of our favorite foods. Let's look at number 6. Coming in at number 6 is a major staple of the modern American diet: refined grains. This means any food made with white flour, like white bread, most bagels, the majority of packaged crackers, and white pasta. It also includes plain white rice. To understand why this is a problem, you need to know what a whole grain is. A whole grain kernel has 3 parts: the outer layer called the bran, the inner part called the germ, and the starchy center called the endosperm. The bran and the germ are where virtually all of the good stuff lives: the fiber, the vitamins, the minerals, and the healthy fats. The refining process is a mechanical process that strips away the bran and the germ, leaving only the starchy, nutrient-poor endosperm. Without all that fiber to slow it down, your body digests these refined grains almost as quickly as it digests pure sugar. This leads to the very same blood sugar spikes, inflammation, and increased triglyceride levels that we've been talking about. A diet that is high in these refined carbohydrates and low in fiber is consistently and strongly linked to a higher risk of heart disease, weight gain, and type 2 diabetes. In essence, you're getting the calories without any of the heart protective benefits. Think about a classic spaghetti dinner with a big plate of white pasta. It tastes wonderful, but you might notice that an hour or two later, you feel tired and maybe even hungry again. That's the blood sugar roller coaster in action. My own dad used to have toast made with plain white bread every single morning. When he finally switched to a hearty, 100% whole grain bread, he was absolutely amazed that he felt full and had steady, even energy all the way until lunchtime. That's the power of fiber at work. This is one of the easiest and most impactful swaps you can make. When you're buying bread, pasta, or crackers, look for the words 100% whole wheat or 100% whole grain as the very first ingredient on the list. And don't be fooled by color alone. Some brown breads are just white bread with molasses or caramel coloring added. It's what the ingredient list says that counts. I also encourage you to experiment with other delicious whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, barley, or farro as the base for your meals. If you have diabetes, Managing your carbohydrate intake is absolutely fundamental to your health. Working with a registered dietitian can be incredibly helpful. They can teach you how to balance wonderful, healthy whole grains in your diet in a way that maintains stable blood sugar and protects your heart for the long run. Okay, let's just pause and take a quick breath. We are officially halfway through our countdown. So far, we've uncovered the hidden sodium in things like canned soups and frozen meals. We've talked about the dangers of processed meats, the sugar trap of soft drinks and sweet tea, the deception of many so-called healthy breakfast foods, and the problem with refined white flour. The common thread you might be noticing here is that these are often processed foods, where the good stuff is stripped out and the bad stuff, the salt, the sugar, and the unhealthy fats, is added in. Now, if you're finding this information valuable and it's helping you connect some of the dots for your own health, do me a quick favor and tap that like button below. It's a small thing, but it really helps our channel reach and help more people just like you. Thank you so much for that. Are you ready for the top 5? This is where we get into the real game changers, the things that can have the biggest needle-moving effect on your cholesterol, your blood pressure, and your overall heart strength. Let's dive in. Ticking off our top 5, we have a controversial one. At number 5 is the full-fat dairy dilemma. This includes whole milk, full-fat cheeses, and butter. For decades, the advice from major health organizations has been clear and consistent. The saturated fat found in full-fat dairy products can raise your LDL or bad cholesterol levels, which is a direct contributor to plaque buildup in the arteries. This is precisely why bodies like the American Heart Association have traditionally recommended that people choose low-fat or fat-free dairy options to protect their hearts. However, it's important to acknowledge that this is an area of evolving research. Some recent, very large-scale studies have suggested that for the general healthy population, full-fat dairy, especially fermented products like cheese and yogurt, might actually have a neutral or even a slightly beneficial effect on heart health. But, and this is a critical but for our conversation today, for anyone who already has high cholesterol or has been diagnosed with heart disease, the long-standing recommendation to limit saturated fat remains the safest and most prudent path forward. I have a friend, Maria, who read an article online about how full-fat cheese was back in and good for you. She started enjoying it freely, not realizing that her doctor had specifically put her on a low-saturated fat diet because her LDL cholesterol was already borderline high. It's a perfect example of how general health news you might see on TV or online doesn't always apply to our specific individual health situations. So here's your clear, safe, and evidence-based action step. If you have high cholesterol or a history of heart disease, stick with the proven advice. Choose low-fat, that's 1%, or fat-free, skim, milk and yogurt, and enjoy cheeses in moderation. If you don't have these conditions, enjoying some full-fat dairy is likely fine for you, but it's still wise for everyone to prioritize getting most of their dietary fats from heart-healthy, unsaturated sources, like avocados, nuts, seeds, and olive oil. This is the perfect topic to bring up at your next checkup. Just ask your doctor, based on my personal cholesterol numbers and my overall risk factors, what's your recommendation for me on dairy fat? Getting that kind of personalized advice is always the best approach. Whether it's dairy or another food, the problem often isn't a single ingredient, but the sheer amount of processing it undergoes. That's especially true for our next category. Let's talk about number 4. At number 4, we have what I call the snack aisle ambush. Ultra-processed packaged snacks like potato chips, most commercial crackers, and store-bought cookies, cakes, and pastries. These foods are the very definition of ultra-processed. They are often designed in a food science lab to be perfectly crunchy, salty, sweet, and irresistible. But from a nutritional standpoint, they are voids. They are typically high in everything we need to limit: sodium, added sugars, unhealthy fats, and refined carbohydrates. And they are low in everything our bodies need more of, like fiber and essential nutrients. This combination creates a perfect storm for heart disease. The high salt content drives up blood pressure. The sugar and refined carbs lead to inflammation and high triglycerides, and the unhealthy fats work to raise your bad cholesterol. The evidence is stark. One large study found that a diet high in these ultra-processed foods directly increases your risk of cardiovascular disease, and that risk actually climbs with each additional daily serving you eat. We all know that feeling. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and you just need a little something to get you through to dinner. It's so easy to reach for that bag of chips or a sleeve of crackers. My own father used to say, "It's just a little snack." But that little snack every single day, full of salt, sugar, and processed oils, was like making a steady daily deposit into the plaque in the artery's bank account. It's the small, daily habits that add up over time to create big problems. Your action step here is to start planning your snacks with the same intention you plan your meals. Swap the potato chips for a handful of unsalted nuts or seeds, like almonds or walnuts. Instead of reaching for cookies, have a crisp apple with a tablespoon of natural peanut butter. Instead of those salty, refined crackers, try whole grain crisp breads topped with hummus or a slice of fresh avocado. And here's a great one: air-popped popcorn. It's a whole grain, and if you season it with herbs and spices instead of salt and butter, it's a fantastic, high-fiber, satisfying snack. If you find yourself struggling with weight management, high blood pressure, or high cholesterol, taking a hard, honest look at your daily snacking habits is a fantastic first step. Try writing down what you snack on for a few days and show that list to your doctor or a dietitian. They can help you identify the biggest culprits and find satisfying swaps that work for you. The unhealthy fats in many of these snacks are often a result of how they're cooked. And that cooking method itself is our next major culprit. Let's move on to number 3. Cracking our top 3. At number 3 is the frying pan problem: deep-fried foods. This means French fries, fried chicken, onion rings, battered fish, and anything else that's cooked by being submerged in a vat of hot oil. Frying food does 2 terrible things for your heart. First, it dramatically increases the calorie count of any food, which contributes to weight gain. And we know that obesity is a major risk factor for heart disease. A baked potato is a healthy food. The numbers are sobering. One major analysis found that high consumption of fried foods increased the risk for coronary heart disease by 22% and for heart failure by a staggering 37%. Let's be honest, who doesn't love a crispy piece of fried chicken or a side of golden brown fries? A gentleman I know, George, considered his weekly fish fry a cherished tradition. He always thought, well, fish is healthy for you. But he wasn't accounting for the thick matter and the deep frying process, which effectively turned a heart-healthy piece of fish into something that was actively working against his heart health goals. Your action step is to embrace other cooking methods that give you delicious results without all the damaging fats. Roasting vegetables in the oven at a high temperature brings out their natural sweetness and gives them a wonderful texture. Baking or grilling fish and chicken are excellent, lean choices. And if you love that crispy texture, consider investing in an air fryer. It can give you a very similar result using just a tiny fraction of the oil. Sautéing in a pan with a small amount of a healthy oil, like olive oil, or even with a bit of broth, is another great everyday technique. If you are actively trying to lower your LDL cholesterol, eliminating fried foods is one of the most direct and effective strategies you can possibly employ. And as a side benefit, if you ever experience heartburn or acid reflux, you might find that cutting out greasy, fried foods brings you significant and welcome relief. The fats used in frying are a huge problem, but there's another type of fat, often found hiding in baked goods and old-fashioned spreads, that is even more dangerous. It has been called the single worst type of fat for your heart, and that is our number 2. We've reached number 2, and this one is absolutely critical because it involves a piece of dietary advice that many of us followed for years. This is the better than butter myth, and it specifically refers to older-style stick margarines and vegetable shortening that contain trans fats. Trans fats, which you'll see listed on an ingredient label as partially hydrogenated oils, are artificial, man-made fats. They were created in a lab to make liquid vegetable oils solid at room temperature, giving products like baked goods and spreads a longer shelf life. For your heart, they are a complete and utter disaster. Trans fats perform a terrible double whammy. They significantly raise your bad LDL cholesterol, while simultaneously lowering your good HDL cholesterol. Your HDL cholesterol is like the garbage truck for your arteries. The link between these artificial fats and heart disease is so direct and so strong that the FDA has now banned them from the U.S. food supply. However, and this is key, products that were made before the ban can still be on store shelves, and these fats are still sometimes used in commercial bakeries and restaurants. There is no safe level of artificial trans fat consumption. 0. Many of us grew up in an era where stick margarine was heavily marketed as the heart-healthy alternative to butter. My own mother made the switch in the 1980s, truly believing she was doing the best thing for her family's health. We now know, with the benefit of better science, that the partially hydrogenated oils in those old stick margarines were actually far more damaging to the heart than butter ever was. It's a powerful and humbling reminder of how science evolves and why it's so important for us to stay informed. Your action step here is to become an ingredient list reader. If you see the words partially hydrogenated oil on any food label, put that product back on the shelf. For a spread, if you choose margarine, opt for the soft tub or liquid varieties that list 0 grams of trans fat and have a liquid vegetable oil as the first ingredient. Even better, choose healthier spreads like mashed avocado, hummus, or natural nut butters. For baking, use healthier liquid oils like olive or canola oil. In many recipes for muffins or quick breads, you can even substitute some of the fat with unsweetened applesauce or mashed banana. This isn't really a red flag issue where you need to talk to your doctor, as much as it is a hard and fast rule for healthy living. Given the overwhelming scientific consensus on their harm, there is no medical reason to ever consume artificial trans fats. If you see partially hydrogenated oil on a food label, just see it as a stop sign for your heart's sake. And that brings us to our number 1 spot. This final culprit isn't a food, but a beverage that can have wide-ranging negative effects on the heart, especially as we get older and are often taking more medications. Let's discuss our number 1. And here we are at number 1. The single most important thing to be mindful of for your heart health after the age of 70 is excessive alcohol consumption. Now, this can be a tough and sensitive topic because for years, many of us heard about the potential heart benefits of a daily glass of red wine. And while some older observational studies did suggest this, More recent and more robust research paints a much more cautious picture. We now know that excessive alcohol consumption can directly harm the heart in several ways. It can raise your blood pressure, increase your levels of those triglycerides we talked about, and lead to an irregular heartbeat, also known as arrhythmia. Over time, heavy drinking can even weaken the heart muscle itself, a serious condition called alcoholic cardiomyopathy. But here is the most crucial point for seniors. Alcohol can have dangerous interactions with many common heart medications. This includes blood thinners, cholesterol-lowering drugs like statins, and blood pressure medications. Alcohol can either make these vital medicines less effective, or it can dangerously amplify their side effects. This interaction risk is what makes alcohol a unique and particularly serious concern in our later years. A gentleman named Robert shared his story in an online health forum. He enjoyed 2 cocktails every single evening to unwind. He was on medication for high blood pressure and for an irregular heartbeat, but he never thought to mention his drinking habits to his cardiologist because, in his mind, it was just a moderate amount. It wasn't until a sharp pharmacist flagged the potential interaction between the alcohol and one of his prescriptions that he and his doctor realized his evening ritual was actively working against the very medications that were supposed to be protecting him. The official recommendation from the Dietary Guidelines for Americans is that if you don't currently drink, you absolutely should not start for any perceived health benefits. If you do choose to drink, moderation is essential. For women, that means no more than 1 drink per day. For men, no more than 2 drinks per day. And it's important to know what a drink is. It's defined as 12 ounces of regular beer, 5 ounces of wine, or 1.5 ounces of 80 proof spirits. The most important action step you can take is to have a completely open and honest conversation with your doctor and your pharmacist about your alcohol consumption and the specific medications you take. If you have certain pre-existing conditions like congestive heart failure, arrhythmia, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or any form of liver disease, your doctor will almost certainly recommend that you avoid alcohol entirely. This is not a decision to make on your own, and that brings us to the end of our countdown. Let's take a moment now to put all of this together and talk about the big picture. And before we wrap up, a quick but very important reminder. I am not a doctor, and this video is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice from your own physician. Always consult your healthcare team with any questions about your personal health and before making any significant changes to your diet. So as we've journeyed from number 10 all the way down to number 1, what's the real takeaway here? It's not about fear. It's not about feeling deprived. It's about awareness. It's about understanding that the biggest threats to our heart health are often not in the foods themselves, a potato, a piece of pork, a grain of wheat, but in what happens to them in the factory and in the processing plant. The overwhelming theme is to move away from ultra-processed foods and move towards whole, natural foods that are as close to their original state as possible. The most empowering message I want you to leave with today is this: you are the CEO of your own health. You have the power to read labels, to ask questions, and to make small, intelligent choices every single day. These choices add up to a stronger heart, more energy, and a more vibrant, independent life. It is not about being perfect. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which of these 10 points was the biggest aha moment for you? Was there something on this list that truly surprised you? Or maybe something you've already cut out of your diet and have seen benefits from? Please share your thoughts and experiences in the comments section below. I read every single one, and your stories and insights help our whole community learn and grow together. And finally, if you found this deep dive helpful and you want more practical, evidence-based content to help you navigate your health journey with confidence, please take a moment to hit that subscribe button and ring the little notification bell so you don't miss our next video. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Be well, stay curious, and please, take good care of that incredible heart of yours. I'll see you in the next video.